Real stories, real people.
In Missouri, every December there was a man who dressed up as Santa Claus for community events. His name was Jeffrey Moffett. The red suit, the white beard, the gentle attitude made him a beloved figure. He was invited to schools, festivals, parades. Children sat on his lap for Christmas photos. Parents trusted him without hesitation. To everyone, Moffett was simply the local Santa. Nobody imagined that behind the cheerful character there were secrets the town was not prepared to face. When the truth came out, the fall was devastating. For years, Moffett volunteered in activities involving children. He showed up at holiday breakfasts, charity events, town gatherings. He was friendly, patient, never seemed irritated. An ideal image of Christmas spirit. His appearance raised no suspicion. He looked safe, he looked kind, he looked like Santa. No one checked his background, no one asked questions. The costume created automatic trust. A red suit and cotton beard became a shortcut to innocence. That mistake would have painful consequences for the entire community. In 2015, one mother decided to speak. Her daughter told her something disturbing. Not a full accusation, only fragments, discomfort, fear. The mother listened. What she heard was enough. She didn't want to believe it. This was Santa Claus, the man who had smiled with so many children. But instinct was stronger than doubt. She reported it. Police opened an investigation. What had once seemed impossible slowly began to look real. The first crack appeared in the red costume. Detectives interviewed witnesses, gathered statements, talked to families. It was a delicate case. Moffett had friends, connections, a public image. Many people refused to believe it. Some defended him, others stayed silent. The police worked carefully. They knew that if there were victims, they needed protection. Slowly, details were confirmed. Suspicion turned into evidence. The Christmas mask began to break, and behind it, something darker appeared. Something the community didn't want to accept, but could no longer ignore. On the day of his arrest, Moffett was not wearing the Santa suit. He was at home when officers knocked. He didn't resist. He was handcuffed and taken away. News spread quickly. Local Santa arrested. The headlines were shocking. Parents who had trusted him were devastated. They remembered photos, smiles, hugs. Now, those memories became unsettling. The sight of a child sitting on Santa's lap suddenly felt wrong. The community was hurt. A cherished symbol of innocence had turned into something frightening. At trial, witnesses testified with trembling voices. The mother who reported him stood in front of the courtroom. The atmosphere was tense. No one celebrated anything. The red suit, once joyful, now felt sinister. Moffett listened quietly. He faced charges involving inappropriate conduct with a minor. The courtroom was full. Journalists, neighbors, familiar faces. The whole town was watching as its most innocent Christmas figure became a defendant. The fall was total. The man behind the beard was exposed. After hearing testimony and reviewing evidence, the judge announced the sentence. Moffett was sent to prison, not a symbolic punishment, real time behind bars. The image of Santa Claus in handcuffs, wearing jail clothes, became the symbol of a deep betrayal. The community needed emotional answers more than legal ones. How had they trusted him so easily? How had no one noticed? Families spent sleepless nights. It was impossible to forget. The man they once celebrated had become a warning.
A man well known for portraying Santa Claus across Cape County now faces a single criminal count in connection with allegations of inappropriate contact with a child.
That's what a judge ruled today after the girl he's accused of abusing and her mother testified against him. The suspect, 55-year-old Jeffrey Moffett, we're told the girl reiterated that Moffett inappropriately touched her. She also said Moffett babysat her and her siblings at times.
The court dropped a charge of first-degree statutory rape against 55-year-old Moffett due to a lack of evidence, according to the judge. Moffett still faces a sodomy charge. The past few years, Moffett has played Santa Claus for the Iron Mountain Railway out of Jackson. According to court documents, Moffett has denied the allegations but noted in an interview that, quote, "Children don't lie." For more details on the case, including what happened in court today, look for this story online at KFES12.com or check out our mobile news app. Moffett is due back in court again next week.
The case produced immediate change. Organizations improved screening, background checks, supervision, clear protocols. The idea that anyone could wear the suit was gone. Trust had to be earned, not assumed. The red costume was no longer enough. Santa as a figure still existed, but innocence no longer came automatically. In many homes, parents had difficult conversations, explaining how someone beloved by the community could hide darkness. Christmas joy was still there, but more careful, more aware. The town was split. Some defended Moffett. They couldn't accept that the man they knew could be guilty. Others thought of the victims, of the emotional damage, of the invisible scars. The community, once united by celebration, now felt fractured. Every Christmas reminded them of the story. Every Santa costume on the street brought back an uncomfortable echo. There was no hatred, only disappointment, pain, and collective shame. They had trusted too easily. They had been wrong. With time, the case of Jeffrey Moffett became a warning. It showed that evil does not always look frightening. Sometimes it dresses in bright colors, smiles widely, and waits for trust. The community learned a harsh lesson. Trust cannot be automatic. It must be verified. It must be earned. Today, children still laugh with Santa, but adults watch more carefully. Christmas continues with lights and music. But behind every costume, there is a human being, and that truth will never be forgotten. In the mountains of North Carolina, Santa's Land was a small Christmas theme park that opened every season. Families came with their children, took pictures, rode little attractions, bought ginger cookies. Among the employees was a familiar man, known by everyone as Santa Claus. His real name was Bevere Hasbrouck Slight III, kind, patient, always smiling under the red suit. For the community, he was a symbol of trust. Nobody imagined that behind the white beard there was a darkness no one wanted to see, a darkness that would soon be exposed. Slight was 78 years old. With age, he had found the perfect routine at Santa's Land, posing for photos, handing out candies, listening to Christmas wishes. Co-workers described him as quiet, friendly, normal. He lived in a recreational vehicle parked near the park. That was his home. No one checked anything. He was Santa. What could he possibly hide? Visitors greeted him without suspicion. Children ran toward him with excitement and trust. The costume protected him. The character created a psychological shield. Nobody questions the man in red who promises joy. At the end of 2023, uncomfortable comments began to circulate. Not official complaints, only whispers. Some parents had noticed strange behavior. Others said their children felt uneasy. But like it often happens, no one wanted to believe it. It was easier to think it was a misunderstanding. Christmas was coming, the park was full, and Santa was essential to the charm. Meanwhile, Slight continued posing for photos, handing out treats, smiling. The costume made him untouchable. The character protected him. The community kept celebrating, unaware of what was about to surface. In early 2024, someone finally spoke. A phone call reached the sheriff's office. It wasn't a direct accusation, but a troubling description, enough to open a discreet investigation. Officers began watching Slight, checking his background, observing the park without drawing attention. There was no evidence, only suspicion, but something did not fit. The police waited, watched. Sometimes, the truth appears on its own, and on September 11, the investigation stopped being quiet. Reality arrived at Santa's land with the weight of something tragic. That morning, patrol cars entered the park. Officers walked toward the RV where Slight lived. They found him there, calm, wearing casual clothes, no shouting, no struggle. Santa Claus was handcuffed while visitors watched from a distance, confused. Sirens echoed between Christmas decorations. The contrast was disturbing. Colored lights, plastic reindeer, artificial snow, and an old man with lowered eyes being led into a police car. For the community, it was a deep emotional shock. The symbol of Christmas had fallen. Innocence felt broken. Hours later, the information became public. Slight faced multiple charges: abuse, offensive contact, criminal negligence. According to investigators, the accusations covered a period between March 2023 and March 2024. The alleged victims were minors. Details were not released for their protection. The charges were enough to keep him in custody without immediate bail. The news spread through local and national outlets. Santa Claus arrested for child abuse. Headlines cold and relentless. The gentle image the community had of that man collapsed, something impossible to accept. During the search of Slight's RV, officers found something unexpected: an arsenal, rifles, ammunition, handguns. Nobody knew why. A personal collection, preparation, something else? The discovery added a new layer of unease to the case. The contrast was too strong. An elderly man dressed in red, photographed with children, storing weapons in his home on wheels. The community was split between disbelief and fear. Police stayed cautious. There was no evidence of violent plans. But the discovery reinforced the feeling that no one truly knew who Bevier Hasbrouck Slight was. At Santa's land, employees cried. Some hid in offices. Others asked aloud, "How did we not see it?" Shame and guilt fell over the park. Parents called non-stop, demanding answers. Management suspended activities. Christmas was paused. The local community, deeply religious, suffered a wound that would not heal easily. There was a sense of betrayal, not only for the alleged crimes, but because they had trusted him. They had trusted Santa Claus. That symbol of childhood joy and safety had turned into something dark and incomprehensible. Slight had not yet been found guilty. The legal process was still unfolding, but the public had already decided. Headlines turned him into a disturbing caricature. The Predator Santa, television, social media, podcasts, repeated images of the elderly man in handcuffs. Every photo went viral, every rumor amplified. In the digital age, public condemnation is instant, brutal, irreversible. Behind the noise, real questions emerged. How do we screen people who work with children? How many warnings were ignored? The park reopened months later with strict controls, new rules, supervision, protocols. But something had changed forever. The decorations were the same: lights, sleighs, trees. Yet the spirit was different. The story of Slight left a scar. It reminded everyone that evil can hide behind any costume, that trust is fragile, that Christmas can be light, but also shadow. And in the silence at night, when the lights go out, one question remains, uncomfortable and persistent. How many secrets can hide behind a red and white smile? In Southeast Texas, the image of Santa Claus was familiar. Every December, Reynaldo Ramirez put on the red suit, the fluffy beard, and the warm smile. He posed for photos, handed out candy, listened to Christmas wishes. For nearly 15 years, he worked as Santa at malls, events, and local celebrations. Parents trusted him. Children hugged him. He was considered safe, harmless, even comforting. No one imagined that behind the cheerful costume there was a darker life, one that investigators would uncover in the most disturbing way. Ramirez lived a quiet life. Neighbors described him as polite and calm. He worked odd jobs, and when December came, he became Santa full-time. He knew how to make children laugh, how to stand still for photographs, how to act patient and generous. The suit protected him from suspicion. No background checks were required for seasonal performers. He was simply Santa. The idea that someone like him could hide something dangerous never crossed anyone's mind. But behind the walls of his home, there were secrets waiting to be discovered. The first traces were not visible to the community. They were hidden in data. Federal agents were monitoring online networks where illegal material was traded. Files, images, anonymous accounts. One username caught attention. It was active at strange hours. It was uploading. Investigators followed the digital trail from online servers to local internet providers. Eventually, the signal pointed to a house in Texas, the same home where Ramirez kept his red suit and Christmas decorations. A quiet neighborhood, a quiet man. But the traffic data was anything but innocent. One morning, federal agents arrived, search warrants in hand. The knock on the door was calm but firm. Ramirez opened. He did not resist. Inside, agents searched computers, hard drives, storage devices. What they found was enough to confirm their worst fears. Hundreds of illegal images involving minors. Content that had been downloaded, stored, and shared repeatedly. Ramirez confessed immediately. There was no attempt to deny it. The man who had been Santa for so many children had been living a double life. The contrast was shocking. News of the arrest spread quickly, a familiar figure entering a federal car in handcuffs. The red suit remained inside his closet, untouched. Parents who recognized him from mall photos felt physically sick. They had trusted him with their children. He had held babies for Christmas pictures. Now, the community watched the footage on the evening news, horrified. The image of Santa Claus, the symbol of innocence, was shattered. The emotional impact was immediate. A season built on joy suddenly felt corrupted. Ramirez was charged with possession and distribution of child pornography. The documents stated that more than 1,000 files were found, many involving infants and pre-adolescents. Federal prosecutors emphasized that he had not only collected material, he had shared it. The scale of the crime was staggering. The cheerful mall Santa had been using technology to trade in some of the darkest imagery imaginable. The case moved quickly. Ramirez pled guilty. He knew the evidence was overwhelming. The community waited for the sentence, unsure how to process what they had learned. During interviews, Ramirez admitted that he had abused at least one child, a 5-year-old girl. The confession was devastating. It turned a digital crime into something painfully real. Federal agents described the case as one of the most disturbing betrayals of trust. Ramirez sat in an orange jumpsuit, no longer wearing red and white. The courtroom was silent as investigators read the details. Years of photographs, files, and exchanges. What had once seemed like harmless holiday cheer was revealed as a calculated facade. In 2016, a federal judge sentenced Ramirez to 235 months in prison, followed by 20 years of supervised release. The sentence reflected both the severity of the crimes and the abuse of a public role. Ramirez would be monitored for the rest of his life. His online access restricted, his movements tracked. The judge spoke firmly. Trust had been violated, innocence stolen. Ramirez showed no emotion. The Santa costume was gone. The man behind it had been exposed. The community tried to rebuild its sense of safety. After the sentencing, malls and event organizers revised their hiring policies. Background checks became mandatory. No more assumptions, no more blind trust. The idea that anyone could play Santa was gone. Parents who still had old photos of Ramirez deleted them. They felt betrayed and disgusted. For the families involved, the pain lingered. Counseling, support, questions that had no answers. How had no one noticed? How had joy turned into deception? The red suit now carried a shadow. The case of Reynaldo Ramirez became a dark, cautionary tale. It showed how a costume can create trust and how easily that trust can be exploited. Santa Claus, the symbol of generosity, had been used as camouflage. Communities learned a hard lesson. Evil does not always look like a monster. Sometimes it wears a smile, a fluffy beard, and a red jacket. The holiday season continued, but with new eyes. Behind every costume, there is a person, and trust must never be blind again.